I sat staring at the glowing screen for what felt like ages. My coffee got cold next to me. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't shock, it was knowing I was right. There she was, my sister, Sarah, all smiles in a white dress, surrounded by flowers and happy faces. Her head was tipped back a little as her new husband kissed her cheek. Everyone we knew was in that picture. Except me. I wasn't asked to come to the happiest day of her life. It was like I didn't even exist. And the worst part? It didn't surprise me one bit. My name is Anna, and I'm 35. Old enough to get that sometimes not saying anything is louder than shouting. I used to be her main bridesmaid in all our childhood dreams. Then she married Mark, the guy who made my high school years miserable, and just wiped me out of the picture. We used to talk about our weddings all the time when we were kids. We'd use pillowcases for veils, dance barefoot in the yard, and say stuff like, "If we get married the same day, we'll share the place." I was 2 years older, but she was always the one who shined brighter, and I was okay being in her shadow. We even made a tape recording when we were 10 and 12. We sounded silly and high-pitched, but it was sweet. On it, we promised that no guy would ever come between us and that we'd walk each other down the aisle no matter what. Always sisters, always best friends. It hurts more when people break promises they made when they were kids because back then, they truly meant it. Things didn't fall apart all at once. It wasn't a quick tear. It was a slow decay. It started with a guy named Mark. He joined our high school in junior year. He had perfect hair and a fake smile, the kind of guy who'd charm teachers and cheat on tests. He also made my life a living hell. He started a false story that I was involved with one of the gym teachers, saying I'd been caught doing things in the locker room that were completely untrue. It messed me up. People looked at me differently for months. My reputation was ruined. I didn't go to the prom because I couldn't handle the whispers. And when I found out Mark was behind it, I confronted him. He just laughed, said it was just a joke. And told me, "You should have taken it as a compliment." I'll never forget that smirk. So, when my sister started going out with him 2 years later, 2 years, I thought it was a terrible coincidence, but it wasn't. I remember the first time I tried to warn her. We were having lunch, just us two. She looked so happy, practically glowing. And I, being the careful, protective older sister, said, "Just be careful with Mark. He's not who you think he is." She slowly put her fork down and stared right at me. "You always hate the guys I like. Just admit it. You're just jealous." That word, jealous. She used it like a weapon. I didn't say anything else after that. I didn't push it. I didn't bring it up again because when someone you care about refuses to believe you, no amount of proof will change their mind. But things got worse. One summer, at a family dinner, Mark was there, sitting like the favorite son at the head of the table. I brought up the past gently, trying to sound casual. Funny how things turn out. The guy who messed up my whole high school year is now sitting here at our dinner table. My dad's face changed instantly. "Are you really bringing that up now? Just drop it." Sarah didn't even react. She just kept cutting her steak. My mom gave me that tight smile that always meant, "Don't embarrass us." That night, I cried in my car. Not because of what they said, but because they simply didn't care. A week later, I went back to Mom and Dad's place to grab a box of my old books. As I walked in, I heard voices coming from the kitchen. I stopped and listened. My mom was whispering to my dad, "If we don't leave her out, she'll mess up the whole wedding. It's her or the ceremony." And right then, I knew they had made their decision. I wasn't even worth pretending for anymore. The invitation arrived a few days later. Well, not for me. It was for them. My parents opened it like nothing was wrong. They raved about the fancy gold writing and laughed about the food choices. When I asked if there was another envelope, one with my name on it, they just looked at me. Hours later, I got a message from Sarah. Just one sentence. I just want peace on my wedding day. Please understand. No call, no explanation. No apology. Just a line that felt like it said, "You're not wanted here." I didn't text back. There was nothing left to say. Because when your family chooses silence over you, when your sister marries the guy who bullied you and then takes his side over her own blood, you stop begging them to understand. You start figuring out what you'll do with the quiet space they left behind. And as I sat there looking at her perfect wedding picture, I realized something. She thought she had gotten rid of me. But sometimes not being there is more noticeable than being there, and I was about to show them. Some people send fancy vases or gift cards. Some show up with speeches and raise a glass of champagne. Me? I sent silence, wrapped up with a ribbon and sealed with a memory. Because even though I wouldn't be at the wedding, I was still going to be present. Not as a guest, not as a sister, but as a reflection. It started with an old shoebox. I hadn't opened it in years. It was in the back of my closet like a little grave for things that used to be alive inside me. When I opened it, the smell of time hit me: old paper, dust, childhood. The first thing I found was a bracelet. Pink and purple threads, worn thin. The silver charm was broken in half. We made them during a power outage one summer. She tied mine so tightly I had to cut it off 6 months later. We promised we'd wear them to each other's weddings. She forgot. I didn't. Next was a photo, creased and a little stained. It was the three of us, me, her, and Mark. But I was barely in it. His arm was stretched out across the picture, almost covering my face. That photo used to really bother me. Now, it felt like the perfect symbol. Then came the cassette tape. Our voices as kids, full of promises and sweetness. We'll always pick each other. No dumb boy will ever break us apart. If you get married before me, I'll still be your maid of honor. I played that tape 3 times. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just listened like I was trying to remember what it felt like to be trusted. That's when I knew what I had to do. She left me out of her big day, so I would send her something to remind her of who she left behind. Not because I was being petty or even trying to get back at her, but because I couldn't carry this heavy feeling anymore, and it was always meant for her to carry. I bought a simple white box. No card, no brand name, just plain and simple. Inside, I put the bracelet, still broken, still real. The photo, trimmed a little so Mark's arm was the main focus. The cassette tape, I wrote press play before reading on the label. And finally, the letter. It was 8 pages, written by hand, no changes, no holding back. I called it, "Before You Say I Do." I started gently, like a soft song. I used to think being your sister was the best part of who I was. You were the music to my background noise. And even now, I still remember the sound of your laugh when we danced in the rain. Then I turned the page. But somewhere along the way, you stopped hearing me. Or maybe you just stopped wanting to. I told her everything she already knew but chose to ignore. How Mark had spread lies about me in high school. How those lies stuck with me, changed how teachers saw me, how I missed my senior prom because of the rumors he started. I reminded her of the night I told her, and she called me jealous. I didn't use angry words. I used facts, memories. Because making someone feel guilty works better when you're kind about it, and then I revealed the truth she never saw coming. 2 years ago, my college roommate told me something after we'd had too much wine. She said Mark tried to sleep with her multiple times and showed me the messages. One of them was from the week you got engaged. I never told you. Not because I wanted to protect him, but because I knew you would find a way to protect him from the truth. I paused while writing that part, not because I didn't know what to write, but because my hands were shaking. The next lines came from a deeper place than anger. You always said I messed things up, caused trouble, stirred the pot. But the truth is, I only ever wanted you to look at me the way you did before he taught you how to doubt me. You married the man who made me disappear and then you did the same, but I didn't end it with bitterness, because this wasn't about getting revenge. It was about letting go. The last lines were simple and true. I loved you enough to stay quiet, maybe for too long. This is me finally speaking up. I closed the letter and sealed the box. No return address. Just a shipping label that said to the bride. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window and watched the rain. No, it wasn't dramatic or like a movie. It was just cold and sad. But in that quiet, something inside me felt lighter, like an old string finally breaking free. I didn't know how she would react. I didn't really care, because I hadn't sent her a threat or warning. I sent her the truth. And once you send the truth out there, you don't chase it. You just wait to see what happens. I told myself I wouldn't watch. I said I wouldn't care. I wouldn't scroll through social media or type her name into the search bar like I was trying to hurt myself. But the moment I opened my phone, there it was. Tag after tag, photo after photo, fake happiness, forced smiles, planned joy. Sarah's wedding. She looked beautiful, glowing in a way that wasn't just her own. It was the glow of every woman who believes she's walking into forever. I could have cried, but I didn't. I just watched, my face calm, my breathing steady, but my fingers were shaking on the screen. In one video clip, they were cutting the cake. In another, she was dancing with our dad. And then there was Mark giving a toast, smiling that same smug smile he used to have before he ruined someone's life. I put my phone down and closed my eyes. She had everything, the dress, the guests, the applause. But I had something too. The truth. And it was on its way. It arrived sometime after the champagne was poured and the speeches were done, right in the middle of the party. Perfect timing. The delivery guy walked in like any other person doing their job, clean shirt. Clipboard, no expression. The box didn't have a label, no card, just plain white packaging with a note on top that said to the bride. Her maid of honor brought it to her with a curious look. The guests leaned in, thinking it was a gift from a relative or old friend. She slowly pulled off the wrapping. First, the bracelet. She froze. Her hand stopped moving as she stared at the broken silver charm, the exact one she tied onto my wrist 15 years ago. Mark leaned over, looking closely. What's that? She didn't answer, just kept opening the box. Next came the cassette tape. She blinked. It had writing on it, my handwriting. Play before reading. Her mouth opened slightly, she held her breath. But she didn't play it. She put it aside with shaky fingers and pulled out the next thing, a folded piece of paper, a printed copy of the false story Mark wrote all those years ago. Some guests noticed, some didn't. But the moment she got to the letter, the one with "Before you say I do" written in black ink, the mood in the room changed. She opened it and started reading. At first, it was quiet, just her voice, low and steady, reading out loud the words I had written during my own difficult time. I used to think being your sister was the best part of who I was. People turned to look, conversation stopped, the DJ turned off the music. She kept reading, but somewhere along the way, you stopped hearing me. Or maybe you just stopped wanting to. Her voice broke. Her hands started shaking, then she got to the next part. 2 years ago, my college roommate told me something. She said Mark tried to sleep with her the same week you got engaged. People gasped, a glass shattered somewhere in the background. The air felt sharp. Mark's face went from confused to scared. I never told you. Not because I wanted to protect him, but because I knew you would protect him from the truth. He lunged forward. That's a lie. Mark yelled, trying to grab the letter. She's lying. This is just her being bitter again. But it was too late. People had heard enough. The quiet in the room was louder than any shout. The bride, my sister, just stood there holding the letter like it had burned her, and then the final surprise happened. Not from me, but from the people watching. Someone raised a phone. Then another. Someone had recorded her reading the letter, capturing the whole thing from the box arriving to her breaking down. A bridesmaid whispered, "It's already online," and just like that, it spread everywhere. Within hours, the video clip was on TikTok, then Twitter, then YouTube. The caption said, "Bride reads letter from estranged sister. Groom's cheating revealed during reception." The comments started pouring in. "OMG, this is like a movie. Good for her sister. What a queen. This is why you should pay attention to warning signs. Mark looks like he saw a ghost. Finally, justice." The perfect wedding turned into a public show, a warning story, a moment of truth that went viral. I didn't watch the whole video, just enough to see her face fall as she read my last words. "I loved you enough to stay quiet. Maybe for too long." This is me finally speaking up. I didn't smile. I didn't feel like I'd won, because this wasn't about getting back at her. This was about the truth, finally standing up, even if it had to crash a wedding to be heard. 3 days after the wedding, it rained again. The kind of slow, gloomy rain that hangs in the air like something isn't finished. I was making tea when I heard a knock. Not fast, not hesitant, just empty, like someone who had nothing left to lose. I opened the door, and there she was, my sister, Sarah, still in her wedding dress. Her makeup was smudged, mascara ran down her tired face. There was no ring on her finger. And in her hand, she held the bracelet, the one we made during the blackout, the one she was supposed to wear at my wedding, and I at hers. The charm was hanging by a single thread, like the last bit of our childhood that hadn't broken yet. She looked at me for a long time. Neither of us spoke. Her lips parted. Then closed, then parted again. Finally, she said, "I knew what he did. I knew what Mark did before we got married." My breath caught, but I didn't move. "I married him anyway because I didn't want to admit I was wrong about him, about you, about everything." Her voice cracked on that last word. She held the bracelet tighter, like it might disappear if she let go. "I thought if I just ignored the past, it wouldn't matter anymore. But you didn't let me forget. You made sure I saw it. All of it." There was real pain in her eyes. Not the kind you fake to get sympathy. The kind you earn when you finally have to look at yourself honestly. But I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't offer her a hug or say something simple about forgiving. Instead, I said the one thing I had kept inside for years. "I wasn't trying to ruin your wedding. I was trying to give you your mirror back." Silence. Heavy. Honest. She looked down at the bracelet again, and I watched as her fingers slowly loosened, and she let it drop. It hit the wooden porch with a quiet sound, then lay still. She turned to leave but stopped on the first step. She didn't look back. She didn't ask for anything. She just said, "I don't think I know who I am without you." Then she left. No big dramatic exit. No apologies wrapped up nicely. Just silence. The kind that says more than anything else. I stood there for a while after she was gone, listening to the rain falling softly and steadily on the roof. The truth is, I didn't feel like I had won. I didn't feel like I was proven right in a good way, but I did feel lighter. Some hurts don't bleed, they just echo. And some fights don't end with a bang. They end when one person stops pretending the other person never existed. I wasn't at her wedding. But she'll always remember I was there. Because that's where the truth lives forever.